We're going to start, as we always do, with the curtain raiser. Not exactly the headline event of the weekend, but Scotland will be taking on Italy.
They will indeed.
In Murrayfield.
Yes.
This game is taking place obviously tomorrow, Saturday, March 20th, 2:15 local and GMT kickoff. Referee is going to be Pascal Gozer. It's to be decent in terms of the weather as well. I think all over this week it's not going to be
much the same. There's very little chance of precipitation, like low highs of 10 or 11, lows of around 2 or 3, but pretty still.
Perfect footy playing conditions this weekend. None of the wet and mist from last weekend.
Yes,
so it has that going for it.
Should be ideal. As far as colour for this game, it is a dead rubber, and there is nothing more. Like Scotland, had they won last week, could have still been in with the chance of hunting the title. They are not in with a chance of doing so now. But for Scotland, it is just a chance to kind of bounce back and end the competition, or not quite, but just kind of bounce back, get themselves some nice tries, get back in the winning column after an historic win.
They are currently in 5th.
Yeah,
and they could end this weekend if results go their way. They could end as high as second.
There you go.
So if
it's changed the dynamic of Super Saturday. This rescheduled game. There's all kinds of differences in terms of the table.
Totally. And like Scotland do suffer for that because they obviously haven't played that game yet. But if they max out here and get the 11 points up, they're I think 33 points behind Ireland in points difference. But a result for Wales and a result for England in those two games would mean that they're in second going into their extra game.
There you go.
So I mean that would be beautiful for them. In terms of financially, it's not a small thing in the context of this pandemic.
It place well and get a bit of bank. Absolutely.
So there's not like there's nothing to play for Scotland. It's important in that regard, and
just from the team's point of view as well, just try and gel. It's a bunch of new combinations, but try and gel and try and click and try and score some tries and punish a very loose Italy team. From Italy's point of view, there's nothing really to play for. Traditionally, I guess, and historically, they have targeted the Scotland game, and even recently, even with Garbisi at 10 and stuff, we have seen some better showings from Italy in terms of what you're asking for the first 20 minutes and stuff. We've kind of seen them be a bit more game in the Scotland game, just because they seem to think of it as their best chance of getting a result.
They did score nil against them in last year's competition.
No, I know. Yeah, this Italian team are still booking trends for being all kinds of soft and not in that game. So as much as I think, hopefully we see something from them, I'm suspicious of the thought that we will. I kind of doubt it.
It's hard to do it. I backed them to put up something against Ireland, and they didn't. And then against Wales, there was a conceivable thought that pre-tournament they might have looked at that game, and they start that game so poorly. They actually, I think against Wales they might have an especially bad record. They always get stuffed heavily by Wales, and so it was again. Scoreline of 48-7 flattered Italy.
Wales butchered a lot to leave them there.
So I mean, it's hard to have faith. The gap between Scotland and the others is way smaller than the gap between everybody in Italy. So looking in from that point of view,
it's a mismatch.
It's a mismatch, and Italy need to start the game with urgency. And maybe that's there's always a buzzword you can throw at them, but urgency is the one that's kind of leaning in my head. Just urgency and intensity, and just start well. Play with focus and drive and energy and all of those buzzwords, but bring it. Bring it in the first 20. Right. Don't make stupid mistakes. Don't make missed tackles. Make things difficult for your opponent. When you get the ball, maybe just get it up the pitch. Make Scotland play out. Win little exchanges. Don't be miserly in terms of things you get up, and basically be the antithesis of everything you have been so far in the tournament.
Yes, that's the plan.
Because so far they've been so soft and so lovely to play against. It's just crazy.
Indeed. They have made a few changes in terms of the teams. We actually do have the teams by virtue of shooting a little late this week, but it means the plus side is that all the teams are named by the time we're shooting it. And Italy have mixed it up a little bit. They still have Varney Garbisi as the key men at halfback, but in the centres they've gone with Maury and Brex, leaving Zanon on the bench, and Canna
on the bench as well.
Canna obviously threw that pick to.
Canna's been poor. He's not been what I wanted him to be. I wanted him to be the boot. I wanted him to be the controlling man to sort of ying.
He does kick a lot, but even for Zebra, he kicks a lot. But not all of them are that good.
Doesn't kick that often either. I wanted him to be the yin to Garbisi's yang, And like the two of them to mix well, one with the good passing game and running the offense, and the other with sort of that game management where he comes in and controls things, moves them down the pitch. He hasn't delivered that, and then he does try and throw speculative miss passes that end up in Louis Rees-Zammit's hands,
being Welsh tries.
Yes.
So he's been axed for that. Monty Ione still on the wing until BG gets carded, and then he'll be hauled off. But BG's still in there at captain as well, which leaves me to believe they have no faith in Lucchesi at 16 either, because BG's been terrible.
Well, he's the captain. You can't really drop the captain, although it's like it doesn't really matter what they do. I think getting a guy out of there who's just costing them dear week in, week out, no matter who he is, probably would make some sense. But it's a tough picture for Italy. They've had a really rough season of it.
They have. The only other change I see is Rutsa coming back into the pack in that row, which does strengthen them a little bit. In theory, their two main assets are still Negri and Meyer in that pack. It's very important that they go well.
I would have thought Mbanda coming in for Lamaro would have made sense as well, but they haven't gone that way. So sure look, it doesn't really matter from an Italian point of view. It's just about the guys that are on the pitch delivering a much more competent and aggressive, energetic showing.
Turn up with a little bit of spite and bite.
Throw a punch at least,
except not literally throw a punch.
But at the start of the
that
game,
might be something they do.
Yeah.
Opening 10 minutes, throw a punch, red card.
It's tough to sell them as a side with a hope. But sure, listen, maybe people will be watching this preview back on Sunday with tears in their eyes, going, they did come up and show it, and maybe that's the way it goes.
Could be. Well, certainly from Scotland's point of view, their team is a bit more interesting because they've gone on the serious let's mix it up for the crack kind of rotation of it, because they have Finn the man at 10. Xander,
they do not have Finn the man,
or sorry, not Finn the man, Hogg the man, I should say, with Scott Steele in there at scrummy. So it's a Steele Hogg combination at halfback, which is a new one. And they have the two Glasgow lads, as we were saying a few weeks ago when they came to the RDS and absolutely lit it up, even albeit in a losing effort. Sam Johnson and Hugh Jones get the nod at test level. And Hugh Jones grabbed a nice try last week. There should be more like that on offer against the Italians.
It's curious, isn't it? Because it's the one game that Russell hasn't played all year, and obviously Russell's injured. I kind of feel like he might have needed those. Looking back on it, hindsight's 2020, as they say, but looking back on it, I think that they probably just struggled from an offensive point of view in those key games a little bit, because Russell has a nice telepathy with those two, and for Harris and Lang in there in the earlier games, it didn't really facilitate Russell's game as much as it might have, and then maybe they could have put it all together in that game against Wales and been a bit more clinical. But yeah, good to see those boys back in there. Good. Obviously, they've had the two locks who were poor last week, Johnny Gray and Skinner and Scott Cummings.
Or Cummings, yes. Skinner and Gilchrist are in now for them straight swaps. They probably do need rests, those two boys, but they kind of didn't warrant being repicked there. Xander back in at 3 after his suspension for the red card.
And no Nell in the squad.
Despite his great performance. That's bizarre. Sean Maitland at 15 is an interesting one. It allows Darcy Graham to come back in with Doohan on the other wing. Dave Cherry also getting the nod at 2 now, despite George Turner having a great tournament all tournament long. He was rubbish against Ireland, same as the rest of them, and he now finds himself on the bench. But yeah, so it's an
Scott
interesting
Steele
team
as well. I like that, actually.
I do like Scott Steele, to be fair. And there's still a chance to bring Ali Price in off the bench and mix it up that way.
There's definitely an element of punishment going on with some of the underperformers. Turner, and obviously Ali Price comes up with the game losing play, so he's out. I wonder if it's a bit reactive, but against Italy it tends to be the case that you can do what you like, and it might be a confidence boosting team. Curious to see how Og looks at 10. As always, he's not really a 10, but
it's curious. They have Jaco on the bench for Jaco van der Walt, who's been playing alright with Edinburgh, and they also have Chris Harris on the bench at as kind of like he's a 13 obviously, so it means with Hugh Jones in there starting at 13, I'm not sure what the plan for Harris is. Is it a straight swap for him?
They could do what they like. They could put Hugh Jones at fullback,
put him at fullback, take Maitland out of there. It kind of leaves all those options open, but the bench looks like a bench that's there to kind of correct things should the shit be getting near the fan.
Well, indeed, that's the only way. Like, as far as previewing the two games are concerned, we'll start with Scotland, the home side, as we do. But the only way that I can see Italy getting into this game could be from sort of
goofiness.
This kind of team being
trying to play a bit barbarian-esque with Stewie at 10 and all of that nonsense, and then suddenly you've thrown a pick and you're 7-0 down.
Yeah, well, you'd be getting flashbacks to Chris Cussiter gate.
Oh, Cussiter
circa
gate.
2007.
I remember that game. I'm sure the Scottish fans remember that too. There was very, very bad Chris Cussitering.
Yeah,
very bad. What did you do? Like 2 picks in the first 10 minutes or something?
Something like that. They were 3 tries down within 10 minutes anyway, so it was definitely calamitous.
That's the way Italy can win a game. As I've said, it's the only way Italy win a game is going 21-0 up and holding on.
And Scotland could do that. I mean, as far as their picture for winning the game, mostly it's about not doing that, and it starts with regaining their foundation, which was up front.
Yeah, scrums, lineouts, mauls, just dominant set piece, because they weren't bullied at scrum time. They actually got some good shots off at scrum time. They were emasculated at line out time. After having had a very good line out all tournament long, they were made look very silly often by Ireland. So you won't be up against the same test against Italy, so it's a chance.
You don't even have a Bramstein after you.
No, you don't. Ordinarily they would have Bramstein at line out time to cause some problems, but they don't. So trying to set that pattern, just get good clean ball going off the top, and clean ball off the base of the scrum, and then probably scrum aggressively, try and get on top of that set piece as the game goes on. And then certainly when the benchmen come in, you're talking Bergen and Kebbel or whatever coming in, they should be killing this Italy team in the last quarter. So it'll be built on the foundation of that set piece. But then the backs have actually looked pretty dangerous. They were pretty clinical last week. It is obviously a new back line this week, but even those guys, Johnson and Hugh Jones in the centre, that's a more dynamic, more offensively minded centre partnership than what they've been picking, even without Finn Russell. And the Italians are so rudimentary and sometimes very soft on D. So there should be scope for a lot of attacking rugby for the backs.
There should. I think they should still lean on their strengths. I think against Italy, in terms of protecting the game and protecting the result, it is about playing sort of smart, fundamental rugby, not playing in your own half. I don't think there's a need for it.
They'll have an interesting job to do, because they won't probably use Maitland's boot from fullback that often. They'll be using Stewie's boot from 10 and probably Steele's boot from 9 to exit a fair bit.
Steele's more of a running halfback than a kicking one either as well. So I mean, I think Hogg needs to take charge of the game, and it's a good test for him in that regard. Playing at 10, he's worked in lovely spirals, but you want him launching deep and forcing Italy to exit, and then launching from the relatively safe position of set pieces in their half, which is where most scores are generated from. It's where most teams are very comfortable attacking. Scotland no different. They've scored some great set piece tries this year, and it's a team settling familiar picture, as opposed to sort of overplaying your hand in your own half and ending up getting caught. There's a danger to that. I think they should even when they made a break in their own half against Ireland, and then Turner made a pick blind. I know they were kind of just completely mentally shot in that game for so many, really for much of it, but he makes a pick blind and gets bundled into touch. It's those kind of goofy plays when you're trying to act like France, as you say, and just up the tempo to the nth degree, that guys can lose their head, especially in a forward pack that's been used to playing and winning games like the one in Twickenham, where it was super tight and slow.
And even their Autumn Nations Cup, when they were without Finn, and they were building a team that were a bit more nuts and bolts, but had a really strong scrum and a really good line out and solid kind of pack, and a workload heavy pack, and a bit more of a rudimentary but quite physical back line. That was kind of what they built it on. They could be going back to a bit more of that, just to kind of bully, to assert themselves, because the showing last week from the pack, it's important that the pack fire on all cylinders this week, because it's only Italy and they'll want to dominate them, and then once that's done, then there's a bit more chance for your razzle dazzle and building on it.
Inject tempo when you're on top in the opposition half, like Wales did for that BG yellow card. If Scotland win a scrum penalty on the Welsh 10,
tap and go, Steele tap and go, and then you're gone. Something absolutely, like that, because you will catch them flat-footed and you will have opportunities to score. And then trying to be as clinical as you possibly can be in Murrayfield. That's exactly the part of the plan. They need to start sticking passes and finding tries. But ideally, it'll be an art like they want to give this new halfback combination of Steele and the converted fullback Hogg now try and give them an armchair ride from the pack, because it's what their game has been about over the last year, and they're fresh from a defeat that was very, very poor from a pack point of view. So just in terms of immediately correcting that, getting your confidence
for
back.
me, big opportunity for Skinner and Gilchrist in there.
I thought they were great the last times they were in there. I didn't quite understand what Gilchrist had done to fall out of favour, but
and a lot of Scots weren't even happy about Gilchrist on the bench last week, and maybe he's not the same force he once was, but I've never had too much issue with him, and I thought Cummings was abysmal last week. I thought Johnny Gray's not going to be dropped. He's going to be a lion. It was an anomalous performance, but an awful one. And now these guys coming in have a chance to make a name for themselves as well, and put them in the minds of Townsend going forward, and likewise Sam Johnson and Hugh Jones, who are of course that classic England cutter aparter.
And they have the Glasgow centre partnership, and they were cutting Leinster to ribbons a few weeks ago as well, as we were watching. They have proper attacking chops, those two.
Do you back Hogg's acumen to pull those strings? His passing game.
That's the biggest intrigue of the game. Is for me is seeing how Hogg goes at 10, because it's like it's as good a kind of option for him. It's like one of those, like the last time I saw him play 10 was a Lions midweek game, and it's kind of similar to in feel to those ones. You're midweek against a team that you should beat. Did they give him a go
during the Finn absence last year at all?
I'm not sure
for
if they
part
did.
Of a game?
I think they might have done for part of the game, but I think he had 15 on his back while doing so. Like, I'm just remember Hogg in a 10 jersey is going to be an interesting look to the game, and I'm hoping that it goes well for him, because I think he's actually had a very good season, and I felt bad for him certainly on the Ireland try that was scored with the chaos kick last week, because the chaos kicks in behind are just absolute the stuff of nightmares for Stewie, but you won't see as many of them from 10. So maybe there's a chance that he just lights it up and tears Italy apart, or he throws a pick in the first 10 minutes and then becomes a completely different picture where they're a bit more panicked. But
it'd be interesting. The intrigue could come into the game if Scotland do start slow, and then can they react to that? They didn't react well to starting slow against Ireland, even when there was no scoreboard pressure on them, when they managed to chalk off all of Ireland's early dominance.
They won't feel the same pressure from Italy, though.
But I mean, if they start, my question really is just, if they start poor, can they rebound from that and reset?
Yes.
I
think they're comfortably the better team, even with this change selection. I think they're so comfortably the better team, and they will be so desperate to get back to winning ways after real disappointment from the Wales and the Ireland games just gone, where they've managed to lose both to back up such an historic win to open the championship, and to back that up with 2 home defeats is really annoying, just really annoying. And now you have Italy coming to town. There should be. I'm looking for a little bit of grit and meanness and edge to Scotland. I was looking for it last week and it didn't come, but I'd expect them to kind of hit the ground running in this one and
just play in the right areas of the field and strike off set piece, inject the tempo in the Italian half, and you should find tries. That definitely is the Scottish picture. From an Italy point of view, we've talked at length about their sort of diminished capacity as
the tournament progresses. They just get worse and worse, and it's fatigue, but not physical fatigue. It's also just being jaded with turning up every week and doing the same thing. And I'm sure it's like when you see a coach losing the draft, like when Lièvre won in that World Cup all those years ago, when the French, there was a lovely shot of him there talking at half time and all the French players just with their backs to him, not listening at all. It kind of I
don't think that's it.
This isn't that. But what I'm saying in terms of anything, you can see by Franco Smith's face that he cares. You can see that when it goes wrong in the first 10 minutes, he's distraught and despairing, because it's probably what they were talking about all week. But it's just I think they're doomed if they do, damned if they do, damned if they don't kind of thing. Because I think whatever good advice he's giving them, or whatever advice he's giving them, I don't think he is getting them to think that anything they do will matter or impact the result one way or another, and that's the problem.
Well, they should have. There's definitely a way, whether you believe it or not, there's a way you can sell the England game as the picture,
as a positive thing,
because before the Garbisi intercept, they were in the game. It was it was either a 1-score game or a 2-score game, but Italy were on the attack. And had they converted then, and they looked dangerous enough, they could have made it a really tight game. And then he throws that pick and it's game over, and they don't respond well to that. But I think they should have been leaning into that first 50 minutes of both mixing up what is an exciting enough and competent offense when Garbisi starts running it well, and they've got obviously huge threat in Monty Ioane on one wing, and Garbisi can cut a line really well. The two centres, I know Maury's in this time for Canna, but they can both cut a line, those two guys, so they can punch holes in that way. Like, there's that offensive thing to build from, and then just the fact that they negotiated that game overall
well against a much better
50
team.
minutes.
Yeah, there's definitely scope, but again, I don't think that'll amount to it.
It just doesn't seem to believe it.
They don't believe a word of it, and that's a problem. Like the last time, as we were citing the last week, the Conor O'Shea getting them to focus on the ruck, the turning them into tackles rather than rucks, so there's no offside line against England, and bamboozling England for a half before they finally adjusted. And that was the last time I saw an Italian side super focused on a tactic. Yeah. You know, like they actually just dialed into a tactic we're going to execute, which is a good way to do it. Like you don't need to say this is going to win the game or do otherwise. You're going to say we're going to mess this up by doing this, and then have the whole team working on it all week, and then the whole team are dialed in, and then they try and do it, and then they string a competent half together. But that game is a few years ago now, and we haven't seen anything from Italy to suggest that.
Well, we have seen some tactics and some shape. You haven't seen the sort of unit galvanization, as you say.
I haven't seen them all work as a team for 40 minutes.
It's been a while since we've really seen like Italy obviously had the 2 wins at the World Cup, but they were completely against mismatched tier 2 of the worst tier 2 sides in the competition. And then obviously the South Africa and New Zealand were non-starters as contests as well. In fact, New Zealand literally so.
That's their last really good result, was 0-0 by default. What was the Homer Simpson one? Default.
Yeah, indeed. So it's hard to imagine them putting it together this week. But what I want to see is them galvanised around defence and putting in gritty defensive play for 20 minutes.
I'd also
at least.
like to see them annoyed when, like, actually Varney gives good annoyed face when their line is finally crossed, but too many of them give absolute phlegmatic here we go again face, you know, which is no good when you've just conceded a soft try. You should be a bit annoyed rather than a little bit jaded
and responsive. Early doors, from a tactical point of view, I'd like to see them kick it a bit. Maitland in the backfield could be dodgy.
Yes, new fullback, try and find him. They don't have Canna on as a kicking option, and Garbisi's kick isn't great,
and Varney as well isn't much of a kicker, so from that point of view one wonders about the selection. But Garbisi can kick and probably needs to, and then working good offense from inside the Scottish half and testing the Tandy defence in the extremities, definitely important. Keeping it away from that, like the Hamish Watsons of the world, is important as well. But no, just setting their usual offensive rhythm and trying to make some plays and get Ioane in a bit of space is always the plan.
He's been good. With the little bit of space he's had, he's executed. He's grabbed 2 tries in the tournament for a team that are being dominated for pretty much every minute of every game. That's very impressive. Get your few danger men on the ball. Get Garbisi hitting lines. Get your Negri and your rotation of Negri Meyer, where it's like Meyer carries, then Negri carries, then Meyer carries again. That's a lot of the Italian offense is built on that, and fair play to those boys. They have stepped up and answered the call, because like you'd think without Pellegrini and Bramstein for the whole tournament, who were their 2 best players by quite some distance, now they have the 2 guys who stepped in, also their best players pretty much by quite a distance, with the exception of Ioane on the wing, who grabs a nice try, but he can't impact what's going on in the game from out there. He can't really. He can grab his try when he gets one, but a lot of times the game's already gone by the time he does. Just galvanise yourselves on defence. Do your best to lock down scrums and lineouts. Make some plays in the opening 20 minutes and ask some questions of Scotland is the first stage. And then if they do that, pressure the halfbacks. You know, these are young. Like there's all kinds of things, little tactics that they should be trying to do while they have the energy, like hitting Hogg, try and pressure Hogg because he's not an experienced. All of these little things that are basics that you would ask of teams. Wouldn't it be nice to see them deliver on the basics for at least 20 minutes, hopefully 40, ideally 80, but that's kind of dreaming.
No, my bar is the first half. That's all I'm looking for. Stay in the game in the first half, because they haven't in recent weeks and it's been so disappointing. Work a bit of territory game, don't be soft, and then punish mistakes, hold the ball for a bit, and who knows, maybe you generate a score, then you're in a game, and they haven't been in a game yet. So that's the challenge.
No intrigue to any of these Italy games in the tournament thus far, apart from how annoyed will Franco be by the end. That's the only intrigue I can see. And we could be treated to the same again, where it's just we're looking.
Well, what do you think? Is that what you think? Scotland easy?
I think Scotland
another 40 something to 10.
Yeah, so Scotland easy enough, but they might make it hard on themselves for a period of the game. I think they'll invite pressure.
What period? The start. start?
No, I think it might be around half time, in and around the half time, like they've done in every game. You know, those really key parts of the game, either side of half time. I think Scotland will underperform there and allow maybe an Italian try, but I still think that Italy will not have enough in terms of calibre or in terms of impetus or eagerness to win. I think Scotland will be the team that want to win more, as well as being the far more talented team, and I think
more
that's more physical. So I think on balance they will win, and between, like, if they're inaccurate they'll only score 20 to 30, 25 to 30 points. If they're a bit more accurate they'll get over the 40 and possibly the 50. It depends how much they want.
So about 40 something to 10 like everyone else. Do you have a scoreline? It was a very specific prediction. I liked it, but you could cap it off with a scoreline, then it would be the ultimate.
Alright, I'll say 42 12.
42-12.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a nice 30-point round figure.
I suppose that is a specific number. Now, if it's not exactly that, that's obviously wrong.
The 12, by the way, is 4 3-pointers.
4 3-pointers.
The fourth of which was kicked on 67 minutes.
What about the try they were going to score before?
Yeah, no, they should have done, but they kicked it 3.
Yeah, I think if I was given an option to take an over or under on a 30-point win, I might take an under for no reason. The reason being that Scotland are in a weird place, having lost that game so badly, and then have picked kind of a goofy team.
And the intangible of sometimes Italy do show up for the Scotland game. Yeah, and all of those. Yeah,
there's no pressure on Italy. And
I wonder what the spread is. It might be about 30 points.
Yeah, there's no pressure on Italy, and there might be a bit of pressure on Scotland, and there certainly will be if they go behind at any stage.
Yeah, as you say, if they throw a loosey-goosey, we're here to play barbarians rugby, oh no, it's 7-0 to them. That's a problem.
So more fool me, I will predict that Italy show up in the opening 20 like they haven't done. But I think, maybe, just maybe, they might make a game of it. But I do think Scotland with the win in the end, as you say, I think Scotland pull away and maybe win it, 27-14 in an unconvincing manner.
A scruffy game in Murrayfield. It's definitely precedented.
I think they should. I think they should get a bonus point. So maybe I'll change that to 28. A nice even 4 tries.
Round thing. That was what
I don't think they'll take threes.
The last competitive game they had was in Rome a few seasons ago, where Italy actually scored more than them, but they took loads of threes, and Scotland only scored 4 times, but they were 4 tries, and it was a bonus point win.
That's it. And then Scotland are kind of bullish when they're playing Italy in that way as well. They like to just go for tries, and with Hogg at 10, I can't imagine them changing that.
Yeah, probably will be going for it the whole time. So Scotland, I think, back to winning ways this weekend, and Italy will sign off their tournament in probably disappointing fashion, and then it remains to be seen whether we'll see Franco Smith continue with it, because he looks very frustrated at the moment.
Fed up, maybe, I don't know. Well, here's hoping that it won't be as depressing as that thought is, and that Italy could maybe pull off a shock and make it a game, and maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Alright, with that we will move on from that game and move on. Thank you very much for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to give it a like, share with your friends, and leave a comment down below as well. We really do want to hear your thoughts.